sounding your Thursday. It delivered strong Q4.
Welcome. Coming to you February the 23rd. Another big down day in the market. Welcome to another Traders Community Podcast. Traders, investors, punters, and dribblers. We've got the glorious Madavi here, hot from another heavy day of shorting, no doubt. Mega Johnny, back from his trip down in Mexico. We've even a bigger tan, I hear. So welcome, and how was your weekend, guys? We haven't been here since Thursday as far as the podcast goes, with a long weekend. And it's been busy with the drums of war and all of that. So our hours have been all upside down, taking advantage of that. So how are we doing, lads?
Right. How are you doing?
Pretty good. How was your holiday before we get into it? I'm sure everyone wants to hear the good stuff.
Yeah, holiday it was great. It was relaxing. Cancun is an awesome place, and Playa del Carmen is a very great. If you ever get a chance to go down there, do it. Just make sure you check out the changes in COVID testing. They changed it from 3 days prior to leaving to 1 day before you leave. You have to have a test. So we had to get up super early to get a test at the airport, which it all becomes a moneymaker for friggin' Democrats, I think.
Mate. Okay. Well, and Madavi, how you been, mate? Been good? All good. So he's busy listening to the eBay CFO's dribble on his conference call from last I heard. So let's get into it. So another big day of selling. It's been 5 days straight, I think. And as we keep trying to get a point across, and the reason we do this podcast is to share from a professional trader's point of view, the experience, what we see, what we look at. Before we get into it, I would like to give a shout out to two guys that have just really been nailed it on, that are on Twitter actually. One CLF trader, Benji, who you may know, and he shares his views. And the other one is, and we'll put on their actual links, actual code, because I've probably spelled it wrong, is Wifey Alpha, who also shares his views and ideas and things like that. He's more algorithmic. So really good guys, share their knowledge, been very successful and very pointed on this whole move down. And not just, by the way, not just uber bears, they actually trade, they go both ways, but they cop a lot of smart-ass comments from the dribblers that are rampant on things like Twitter and stuff like that. And that's why we don't spend too much on it, and that's why we kind of clear the decks. So give them a shout out, follow them, really good stuff. And you don't go verbatim, but just try and understand what different people that are successful with different eyes and what they're looking for, particularly in these sort of markets that are run by fear, greed, and that sort of thing. And they're just people that have never seen these sort of markets. And also we've been posting a little bit from a couple of real, because VIX is very important, or the vol is very important to give an idea. They're very important in algorithms, in hedging, keeping the delta in play, etc. Particularly a lot of funds that are used VAR. So follow them. They're also on our on our list. So here we go. So let's have a quick look. There's a good little shot there. That's today's theme. Lots of dribblers stocks been out in the last few days of earnings. It is that time of the year. So what we have seen, here's our overall markets, obviously crude and natty. And remember, we have a strategy. We post that every weekend. It's in that weekly game plan. So we have a weekly. We go top down, weekly, daily, right through the time zones, right down to 3 minutes. So you want to trade at the market, but you have a game plan. So this doesn't surprise you. and you know where to buy and sell mathematically. We're not quite algorithmic, but we do base a lot of that on that, obviously, Murray Math, Ichimoku, previous levels, and things like that. And then you want to keep your eye to the ear on how the herd is reacting. So you keep an eye on news, and that's where we try to cut out the waves. So without further ado, we closed. Oil was down today, but still very strong at $92. And the relevance is, out of all the indexes in the stock, the S&P or 12, only one was up, and that was energy despite that. So obviously, beaucoup money being made in those energy stocks, particularly the Exxons and Chevron and the likes. We saw Fangs or Diamondbacks earnings yesterday. Strong numbers, as you'd expect here. It's kind of a bizarro world where, as you know, all our and I think it's kind of coming true. We don't accuse of being nuts anymore with the whole wag the dog thing, blaming Russia for the energy policy the last 16 months or whatever. So that's been going on as well. Natural gas has been trading up, and it's still in that pennant. So we have that there. As far as the S&P goes, we are down at significant levels, right? Personally, I think Madavi, I don't think did either. We didn't actually trade the Russell today. Very busy on the S&P and the Nasdaq, and a lot of different stocks. Earnings season gives you good opportunity, particularly the stocks we label the dribbler stocks, as you know, when all that market was going up, and that was apparently was trading, was buying and hold. They're still not comprehending where we are as far as the market goes, what's going on, and constantly trying to buy the dip, or being too scared to buy off good support zones. Remember, you're trading; it goes both ways. So we've got another important aspect that you want to get if you're a trader or an investor is to know when to be out, when to be short, when to be long. And if unsure, you just don't have a position, right? You want to be unemotional the best you can. So what I really like about Wi-Fi Alpha's doing is it's all machine-based by his algorithms, but you know what I mean. It's taking out the emotion, and very similar with what CLF Traders also doing. Aware his background actually goes way back. Actually, back in the day, knew of his father. So, but he traded with a very good trading house, very good discipline, and actually, what I've liked what he's been doing the last 6 months or so is more looking at the more out the curve on puts and calls. Particularly in IWM, which is Russell, the SPYs and things like that. And the other thing, both of them are using the ultras, which I tend to do more futures, but we do play around with the SQQs and also the VIXY. So use what suits you, but make sure you know what you're doing. And they give you good hedges, clearer ways to take in the market, but these are very fast. You've got to have your plan. You've got to trade proactively. So let's move on to the SPUs today. We'll start off with that. We know our overall structure as far as the weekly goes. And the important thing is we didn't do a podcast since last Thursday, right, guys? Well, Johnny was hooping it up in Cancun, but if you remember, that was kind of my birthday weekend. So then that ploughed on. Important, remember, spend time with your family and friends. But look what we're looking at. This is either a wave 5 of a 1, or it's a 5, right? But either way, we know what's going on. We have this down channel, and we've been able to really load up on each one of these weekly bars. And look where we're at, people. Right here, back at that channel, back at that low. So very big level here. Potential double bottom. Yes. So we then move on to our keywords potential, right? So you want to scale down. We go to our daily And look what we're under. We're now under that daily channel. So mathematically, this is all this downside, right? And obviously, we have this labeled, I think, on the weekly. 1, 2, 3. So this is the bear is 1, 2. Your bull would be this whole thing becomes a C wave. Either or, we have a lot of downside, and you need to measure this using your shorter term. So this is 4 hours. Our first support doesn't come in to -2.8 at 41.40 if it gets under this level. So this is a big level. This is cash, yes. This is cash. To be more consistent for those trading the SPY, know your level, your difference between this and the SPUs. You can see the double bottom over here, okay? So big levels. And you can see what's happening each morning. And that's why we differentiate between the investor, the trader, the punter, and the dribbler. So you can see what goes on here. What I love about Twitter, they always buy the bottom and sell the top. They never lose. But in all seriousness, everything is a measured move. And we're coming off this low right here, right? See how it retested that perfectly? Each time, right? So today's the 23rd. So let's just keep breaking it down. And then, again, look at this. See, this is all... The reason, as I said, I like the algorithmic approaches is it takes away the emotion. And the biggest weakness of a trader is themselves. So it's their mind. And remember, when we get to it, we're not so busy trading, we're going to do more focus on the mental aspect of it, and we're going to get buddies in that also from the sports world and that have been up and down, and how they've dealt with it. And that's very important for trading. So anyway, no further ado, again, 2.8's a perfect measured move. Look at that, -2.8 to +2.8, so it's a 4.8 move. And just bang. And remember, Nova Wave is combining Ichimoku with the Murray Math, and we watch the order flow and how the people react. So remember, art trading, the way we do it, is more an art than a science, but we're using that math base. So this was just a real easy trade for once you were confident the wave was playing out. We had a view about Ukraine. That has turned out to be, unfortunately, exactly as we expected. We have our theories on why, as you all know. We'll see how that plays out. But what just blows my mind is this is a surprise, the way the market's reacting. It blows my mind that the inflation and all this stuff isn't real. The bond market tells you what's going on. We've talked about that with the curve. We had another bond auction today as far as where the US economy's heading and that type of thing. So let's bring Madavi on with the Nasdaq. That's his little baby. So here we are in the weekly. So this is 1, 2, 3, just bang. And I think Madavi made a comment today. It seems like it's down 2% every day. So it's been a real good add-on trade from here. Remember, if you think about the turtle traders, from up here, when it spat, the flat Tenkan and Cajun, and then down here when it retested the 50 WMA. So this is way ahead of the SPUs. Remember, the SPUs is basically where this red bar is. So you want to walk us through this, Madavi?
Yeah, well, this goes to what I've been saying for you remember we had those big rallies a couple of weeks ago, and I said, everybody, this feels like a bear market rally to me. And there's the way this market is trading, there's going to be some kind of black swan event, something that's going to even push it more. We got the made up Ukraine thing now, that everybody's getting hysterical over. It's trying to drum up the war beams, and now we got another guy who's presidential, old Biden now. Whenever the war is, all these news medias talk about how great this president, he's a wartime president,
It's funny, mate. I had my doubts when you said that. You said, they're going to say that, you watch. And sure enough, you showed me like 3 different news anchors saying that. Yeah.
He went from the laughing stock a week ago to now wartime president. So you got to keep these things in mind. And the market was telling you, hey, there's something not right, because these big moves were coming all the way up and down. Is to get people conditioned to these types of moves. Eventually, people start ignoring them. And once that ignorement comes, the floods are lifted. Man, it's not going to get that bounce back. And every time it does this, it's eating people's liquidity. So people are getting poorer, and they're not going to be able to keep up with it. They're eventually going to give up and get out of their stock. So, this is what's going on. But today, again, another great example. We got the Ukraine. The United States has to be, the good guys, which we all could have our opinions about that,
Well, the key as traders is, and that's an important thing Madavi just mentioned about opinions. It's like politics, never, and people make this mistake, that they don't make your investment or trading decisions with your political views, or if you're a trader, right? If you're just an investor, it's a different thing. But if you're a professional trader, and we used to see this during the Trump years, right? They hated or loved Trump, and they would make decisions on that. And people have made decisions on that on oil and gas, and they're paying the penalty for it, as we all know. But as Madavi said, it's important. So we all have our theories and views, and we do that mainly we look at how we think the market reacts. So we're lucky we're being right, so we've been positioned very nicely for it. But basically long oil, long natty, long those stocks, and then short the markets. Generally, there's a lot we miss, obviously. We're very specific. We don't claim to trade bloody everything. Like I noticed wheat, I think, what was it, Madavi, hit the highest high since, I don't know, 212, a long way back. We don't trade that. We're not going to pretend we do, but significant that that's a move because of the Ukraine's positioning in wheat, right? So the food bowl and all that sort of thing. But the aspect that's relevant to us is the inflationary bit, I would think, right? But sorry, mate. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Oh, no problem. I'm glad you come in, stepping in, kind of expanding on the subject. It's kind of good to kind of get for more people to understand what we're talking about. So there's no good guys. They're just not as bad as guys in this whole political scheme.
That's true. They're all very good.
Yeah. So they're not doing it because they're trying to save you or your thing. All they're doing is wasting. We've seen how they treat it. But let's not talk about political stuff. Let's talk about stocks here. That's what we're here for. And so today, all of a sudden in the morning, you wake up, the market's up, running up, and I'm like, man,
that's like crazy, right?
Yeah, it's perfect setup, man. What happened in Ukraine? So I traded out one long. As soon as I seen weakness, I just sold it, and I sold it deep as I could. Then we started shorting every other stock we can, and these are days that are great. He's ride it all the way now. It was no really whipsaw after the point up, and it just went. That's called people giving up. They're like, oh, I can't do it no more. They gone such back and forth so much that they're just throwing up their hands, and that's what it felt like today. And it feels like now they've worn out these people, and their money's going away. These markets are going to get looser, and the dumps are going to get faster. Take an opinion. I think it was 2011 when the Fed did the second rate cut. The market dropped 20%. The Fed hasn't done one rate cut.
I can't remember that long ago, mate.
I got a memory like a stone when it comes to money.
True.
So keep in mind, nothing has changed from 4 months ago. The sentiment has changed. The opinion has changed. People's feelings have changed. Just like the war in Ukraine. I don't think any of you guys felt anything of it. But you're going to feel it now. They put the things on Russia, gas prices. You're going to feel the pinch. The commodity prices. Everything's going to shoot up, off of whatever. I mean,
I think a lot of that's already in. My view is that, because it's already up here. It's just shocking economic. Not economic. Well, that too, But energy policies, they didn't do transition. It all become populist. Just mindless. Just think about this. If we didn't have the lockdown and shutdown of the world, because they were still doing all that, shaming everyone oil and gas, even though you needed it, and coal and whatever. If the economy had been hot with all that pomp priming, what the heck prices would they be? Because no one was producing, they were shamed, right? And then so it'd be even worse. So I really do. The more I see it and think about it and talk to, and a lot of these big oil guys I still talk to, right, at the VTOLs and all this sort of places, it's pretty obvious to all us, So
it seems pretty obvious. And look, here's another giveaway with this. They're shifting on this Ukraine thing, right? For 8 months, they're sitting there talking this nuclear deal. Well, we haven't got nowhere. But ever since the Ukraine thing has started, they've come a long ways. They're about to sign contracts. And it just tells you, man. I mean, the Persians are not gonna. They already got fooled once. They already got screwed by them. So they're like, hey, we're not gonna play your games again. But now all of a sudden,
well, now they have the strength too, right? They have the strong hand. And Putin's got the strong hand now too. This is a bizarre thing, is that this has gone on for a long time, as we know, in the Ukraine with the different ethnicities there, and no one's bothered. Then all of a sudden it became a pressure point, and all this, and it's been almost like the old expression, a red flag to a bull. And now as we sit here now, we've got more and more war talk, the Ukrainian, the Russians, and then the US view and all that. But just as I said before, we have people on the ground there, ancestors from the old Baltics and Scandi areas. So people are very unhappy because what's happened is it's affecting them. All the prices, the fear, all this. It's kind of like if the status quo, the devil, what's the expression? The devil, or something, whatever.
And here's another funny thing about this, right? So it's a democratic thing or something, because Donald Trump's like, hey, I don't blame Putin for going in. He did the right thing. I mean, I don't know. He was the last president, so I mean, Donnie, who knows what he's doing? Donnie's in Donnie world.
Well, that's true, weird, right? Well, I think what he was saying, I mean, he's hard to interpret, but he's saying those two areas wanted independence from Ukraine and Russia. They don't want to be Ukraine and Russia because if we go back, so when Ukraine happened, the Russification aspect of that area, Putin didn't want them. For all those countries where the Russians put in for Russification. Basically, you're from that country because Russia couldn't handle them. But he was also mindful of them still being Russian, if that makes sense, right? So, fast forward, then the opportunity added up. You got to remember when Biden was vice president and what's his name? Obama was president. That's when Putin took Crimea. Nothing happened. We then have that whole scandal with Biden and his son, and that's by the way in that area. So you got all these interplays that make every second conspiracy theory go, nuts. But pretty blatant, given the politics and being in the oil business way too long, or the energy and business. The misdirections are just constant, So at the end of the day, I would surmise most likely, unless it gets out of hand, that those two states will break away. Ukraine won't be all that unhappy. Yes, there is natural gas there, but it's also a bit of a millstone. There'll be Russia will move along. The Nord Stream pipeline, that'll get approved in some mean or other. Germany will probably grow a brain and have better energy policies. So as we fast forward through all that, unless Putin has blown a gasket and going nuts, and he's 70 years old, he's big on legacy, so the worst thing that can happen for him, in my opinion, is that Russians go home in body bags back to Moscow. So think of all that. The worst thing in Kiev is the same thing, right? So we'll see. That doesn't seem to bother the U.S. administration, any of that, right? So that's the scary bit.
Here's the thing that, I would think that Donnie and Skeletor over here, we get the same briefings, right? So if this was something that was a systemic risk to the United States or something like that, I mean, I don't know if Donnie would have that same opinion.
Well, I think Biden, I mean, he was, like I said, vice president for 8 years. So everything I've just said, he would know. Everyone knows who's anywhere in politics to do with Europe, that particularly Eastern Europe, Scandinavia, the Baltics, Russia, energy. So none of that's unknown, right? You can look it up yourself. We're not saying anything strange. We also know what happened with Georgia. But remember, each of these situations are a kind of ethnic, because, so the Ukraine was never a sovereign country, right? And there's a history there, so it's different to the other countries that were part of the Soviet Union. And a lot of this stuff gets misinterpreted. Also, when someone like Putin gets emboldened, and he was allowed to become emboldened, if not pressured to become emboldened. He was the ex-KGB chief in East Germany. And the other significant thing is Angela Merkel is retired, and she always seemed to have a good handle on Putin. A few factors, but the energy thing, what's the big change? The energy thing got out of whack. You needed someone to blame. Omicron, as you said, we don't even hear about that anymore, right? Rona and the not. So.
And for Putin, it's a national security risk. They can't have another NATO right in front of them.
Well, that's all a myth too, right? So no one in Europe talks about Ukraine and NATO. The only reference was when they first went across, and it was under pressure from the US that was one of their ideals. They've never gone on about it, right? So Putin went on about it now. Why did he go on about it? Because Biden went on about it. Right? Because they, as I said, it was not a sovereign state. So if you're from Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Germany, Czech Republic, and all that, you're all aware of that history. You're also aware of not poking the bear, right? So what drives me nuts on FinTwit, if I don't know shit, I don't talk about it, right? I don't pretend to talk about it. So there just happens to be the part of the world I actually know a little bit about. But you got all these people with opinions about it. Like, do I know anything about coronavirus? No, I'm not a doctor, so I don't talk about it, right? Same thing with this.
So to kind of explain the situation, that how I see it, it's like United States breaks up, right? Let's say Texas and all them go to a different country, right? Then
hang on. We are a different country in Texas. What are you talking about?
And put under my military aspect. And the United States would be like, well, no. You can't come over here, put NATO right here in say it's Texas, for example, right in the middle of us, So it'd be like they're NATO. They would never let that happen. No country would, So
well, that's my point. And so everyone there's aware of that, right? So all of a sudden. So you can look at it another way too, as I think you're pointing to, is it's very condescending to everyone in not just Russia, but Ukraine and Russia. And then everyone, look, if you're from that region, you know what Russia's capable of. And it's an old saying, you just don't trust Russians, right? From there. Doesn't mean you don't like them. It's just history. And
over here, but I'm just saying is nobody would let that action go over there.
No,
it's not making it safer because Putin was over there, was doing supersonic, nuclear weapon testing.
That's all bullshit by Putin right there. Actually, I'm just reading this right now. So Zelensky is doing a speech about 3 minutes ago. He's speaking in Russian, says he tried to have a phone call with Putin, but got no response. So let's have a little look at Zelensky. I think, Madame, you said this last week. So he was kind of a what's the word? A fail. It reminds me a bit of Macron getting in France. So he's a comedian. Ukraine had a history of basically leaders put in by the US or promoted by the US, leaders put in by Putin. You can go look at film clips of Ukrainian parliament. They get into fights with each other and extra. So he's kind of been, I don't want to say as a joke, but kind of. Does that make sense? So all of a sudden he's meant to be, to use Madavi's phrase, a wartime leader. So that's, all this stuff is, it's kind of bizarre, you know?
Yeah, it's really bizarre, and the stuff that you hear on this TV and stuff, shocking, outrage. I mean, God, come on, let's just put a little bit of common sense into this.
Oh, you don't get that. We're in a bull market that's been pumped by money and all that.
Yeah,
that's what it is. It's all money.
I'm just telling you this, but we can't ignore it as traders, as the market, because it is affecting the markets. It could affect gas prices and push it over.
Oh, no, you want the reason we're talking about it is very important because it is energy, and energy's been so misrepresented. But it's not just energy, right? We talked about wheat at the top of the hour. Palladium, Russia is. I'm pretty. I know they're the biggest, but I'm not sure how much percentage. Nickel's another one. So here's another ulterior effect. So we already know there's a supply crisis, right? So, for example, if Australia got blown up tomorrow, then we'll be shit out of luck with coal, iron ore, and a bunch of other stuff. So if we go to to Russia, same situation. Nickel, palladium, and stuff like that. The relevance is this, and everyone saw it, and first thing Johnny noticed, he goes, heck, Tesla's down $60-70 or whatever, or more from when you left. So the problem with EVs, because you see all the, what's just insane to me, a lot of politicians in the US and Europe that are very left-wing, they're very happy that oil and gas is up here because they believe that'll force a transition. That's the logic. So with an EV, you've got to use, as we know, already very difficult to find minerals. Well, nickel and things like this are key, and aluminium or aluminum, however you want to say it, are key parts of that. So we saw all these EVs are getting crushed, not just because they don't make money, but now they can't even.
You're not going to have the money.
Right, they're not going to have the money, as you said.
The raw materials,
batteries.
You can't do business.
Parts.
Yeah, so there's so many different things. Now, we don't want to scare the crap out of it. We're traders. There's stuff to buy and sell, right? Obviously, the length in the oil stocks, in the energy stocks. But you want to get in that mindset anyway when you're trading and not just be all bullish or all bearish. Listen to the herd, listen to it. And that's why I mentioned those guys, Wifey Alpha and CLF Trader at the top of the hour, because I know how they trade very much with the market. But so whenever they're bearish, everyone who's always bullish, particularly all the dribblers, the people that are part-timers, have an opinion, got lucky, whatever, as wife would say, subscription businesses, and all this that don't have it, they will basically, and it's almost like a program plan, bag on those guys. Now, and the other thing, the Uber bears, which aren't these guys, by the way, will then bag on the long-time guys. But these people all have subscription models rather than trading. So be aware of that. What we're trying to do, Madavi, myself, and Johnny, is just point out what makes the trading world go. You know, we're not giving any investment advice. We're not saying go buy this stock or buy that. We're traders. We know we're pretty damn good at it. And we're trying to point out what we do, right? And what we see. And blokes like us.
Connected.
Putting it together.
Just look at how things are connected sometimes.
Right. So you can, and so all that, like, I love it when people hang stuff on technicals, or you should have a good basis of all the different factors: fundamentals, crowd control. Wrong slip of the tongue there. I was watching a Canadian video earlier. Crowd response, in other words, money flow, right? And so that's the other. So we've gone on a little bit about because we haven't done this for 3 or 4 days, so we wanted to catch up on a lot. But the other thing so here's the Rusty, which I haven't traded too much lately because it was difficult, right? Yeah, so
it's been awesome. I've just been killing it now.
Yeah, basically I've been spoozing it. Madavi's been NQing it because you got to be focused, and we're doing individual stock. Like, here's a good example of some of the stuff we like to do. So we look, when vol gets crazy, you also look to sell vol, right? But you remember, make sure you know what you're doing. This is kind of, I think it's called level 4 with the brokers. So you don't want to do this if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't have the money. But we saw yesterday, which stock was it?
Esty.
Esty. I couldn't believe they're paying $5 for a call, expired $10 above, expiring in 2 days. Well, 3 days yesterday. So we flogged them. But they're hard to get hit too, so you weren't able to sell a lot of them. Let's not kid ourselves. So we didn't get many away. But 509, it comes down nicely. 509, is that what we sold? Something like that.
Yeah. 478. I got the.
You got out yesterday, and I got out today. But
yeah.
But Harvey, because in the heat of the moment, I'm just like bang, 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 and he goes, "Hang on, He says, "You're right, mate." We did the trade. You know, that's a good thing. But if you that's the other important thing. If you've got a good team of traders you can rely on, and you know that they're fair income, that's your Australian word of the day. That means legitimate, for real. Then you can follow them. I'll know what he's looking at, and vice versa, right? So anyway, he goes, after it settles down a bit and everybody's giving a few other things, he goes, "Damn, that's 2 days. Have they got earnings or something?" I go, "What?" Remember that? So that's another thing. Always check on that. So they had earnings. They actually have earnings tomorrow. So I took profit on that, even though I'm bearish, because I don't want to be short calls on earnings, even if I am extremely bearish. It's not worth the risk, right?
It get ugly in that. I mean, I've been in it where I forgot. So I looked at these things, right? So I was telling, hey, you know, we looked at this. We're like, man, this is perfect. And checked all the boxes. Then when we did it, I was like, oh, we forgot to check that last box.
Right.
the biggest one of them all.
And so as you know, we have the Dribbler Dirty Dozen, and Etsy's in that one. So that's why it popped up. And as you know, so we're flat on that now, as a heads up. We may day trade a little bit tomorrow. I doubt it, but we'll wait till tomorrow. So the Dribbler Dirty Dozen, we call that for a reason, as you all know. But that has worked out tremendously well. And people get mad at us because they get emotional with stocks. Don't fall in love with a bloody stock. Fall in love with your wife. Fall along with your mum and dad. Fall in love with your dog and cat. Your best mates, that sort of stuff. Oh, don't forget your kids. But don't fall in love with material aspects. And it's all a stock is. And all politicians, right? Same sort of thing. But anyway, we'll go through these in a sec because we had, I think I've got to bring them up on the other screen here. Where did I put them? So, today we had Skills, which is one of our favourites. So I'd love to say I'm still short this, but I think I got out about $8 or something. So they reported big miss. I think they're expecting like 550 plus in revenue in guidance. And so that's the other thing. Look at guidance. That's what's relevant because this is old news, scared market. So Skills, look at that trading 250. To me, that's still not a buy. I saw a lot of people in trading rooms kind of mocking Kathy Woods about it, and I'll bring Johnny in for this because he knows more about her than us two guys. But I believe she's out of them, right? The Skills. Yeah, I think she's long gone.
Hey, my favorite stock, Palantir.
Yeah, and Palantir. So I was going to go through them in order. So Skills is down to $250 from $40. I remember when we had that, we flogged it over 40. The next favourite, one of our big favourites, is Fubu. So to me, I mean, well, this is one of those weird ones that I remember in options. I lost on longs and puts. I'd always have the wrong. They'd always expire 2 days too early. Remember up there at 30. But anyway, from a fundamental point of view, the fact that Murdoch, when he sold, was it Fox to Fox Universal, whatever, to Disney, basically my understanding is he gave Fubu to them, his share of them, and Disney has never had any interest in buying these guys. So they have a lot of losses, they have a lot of subscribers, but anyway, either way, who cares? $50 to $7, down again today.
Kathy Wood dumped that on February 1st, and so she cut her ties and
so again she's out of that.
Shares.
So what's interesting, and the reason we're talking about Kathy is a lot of these stock, and that's why we're a bit late with our podcast, all of a sudden everything started getting hit because everyone thought that she was still in these. So they were selling other stocks that she's in, like PayPal and other ones, in the belief she's got to sell stuff to make money. Etsy we have up here to show you why we sold calls. We sold the 135s, wasn't it? Way up there. Or maybe 120. Yeah, so you can see it was a good technical play. These are short. Let me go to a longer term for you. So this is a 5 minute. So it's just been sold off after hours. I could have actually got another $2 out of that, Madavi.
Yeah. Well, this is another mistake we did. The amount of money that thing costs to do, we cut our. Margin. Yeah. We made more money just selling the stock with the same amount of money, right?
Yeah,
and made more money from that. We would have made 4 or 5 points if we would have done that. So
more than that, I hate to tell you.
We're just saying this because you guys don't have to make these mistakes in the future.
Yeah. So we actually did it around 125.
It was a great trade. Don't get me wrong. It was perfect.
Yeah. So to give you an idea, in selling that option, so from a margin point of view, that was $11,000, right?
For each option.
Yeah, each option. So obviously we use a lot of margin up. So you're limited, right? So we sold them for 5. Yeah, so that was.
So we kind of messed that up in a way. There's better trades we could have done.
Well, two things.
We didn't calculate all. See, a trade looks good until you're in it. That's it. That's the only point we're trying to make. Even though the trade was successful, everything made money, but there was a better way of playing it, and we both miss it.
Yeah, well, there's not only that. So using the capital, because it was we sold the 135s. So the spread went to 40 cents, 30 to 40 cents, and there's not many market makers in it, so you're giving up that. It's dinner, the earnings. So yes, we made money, but that was more because we were just very right on direction. So if we had done the same trade here for the same, here's the thing, same amount of capital. Look at that. That's $10 move. So I got $1.20 out of that is what I got, I think. So that's $10. The other thing is I would have been more inclined to hold it because it was just a normal spread rather than a 40-cent a liquid spread, right? Now look at this selling after the market.
Oh, yeah, Dan Q's.
No, I mean on the Etsy. Oh, yeah, on futures, definitely. And that's related, right? Because these things, if the S&P goes down and the particularly the Nasdaq goes down, these bigger stocks will fall with it. I mean, Etsy not. But even, so if you got crap earnings like Skills and Fubu and you got weak futures, you're a problem. And so our other one we're talking about, one of the ones we've been short for a long time now, this one, and a couple of big funds. Well, so actually we were short Skills and Fubu for a long time too, but Palantir even longer. And Madav has verbalized many of the reasons on that one too. But look at this technically, right? So that missed earnings last week. Actually, let's go to an hourly. And Kathy, this is another one. The reason, so just to prove the dribbler point, if Kathy Woods gets out of them, already dribbler stocks, that's like is that a double dribble? Is that what that is? But it gives you an idea of the failure. Yeah, she dumped that after the earnings. She said she must be thinking, what was I thinking? But she
got into Kratos, if you know who they are.
And for Kathy Wood to admit she's wrong and sell or something, it's a lot. Tells you how much of a retard that CEO is.
well that and
off the books.
yeah, so Palantir's gone, Skills is gone, Fubu's gone, right? Who else has she chunked? Here's a question for you. I noticed one of the dribblers, our other dribblers, I didn't have time to put it on the chart, but GNA. So a lot of these, if you've noticed, are SPACs. So that's why we whack them. They get into the dribbler. That's one of the... It's not... You don't have to be a SPAC to be a dribbler. But in this situation, it's more likely than not, right? So all of these on screen, other than Etsy, is a SPAC or reverse, right? So keep that in mind. So as you know, we went short up around 20... Let me have a look. So when did our buddy... He went short up here, 27, remember that fund? But I think even further back. So around 23 is where we started hitting this. And you can see, just relentless, right? So this is probably one of your best examples. And this has... And all these stocks have the other thing in common. They get very cultish. People get very attached to them, fall in love with them, can't see it. And I think I made this point to someone when we were on Twitter a bit today. But they asked questions about these. And the other thing that happens, human psychology is they don't want to admit they're wrong. And you'll hear on places like CNBC and Bloomberg, if you haven't sold the stock, you haven't taken a loss. Isn't that logic just bizarre? You're assuming it's going to go back up to start with, right? So what these people do is they average in these things. The pros are selling them. They don't have anything to do with them. People like Kathy Woods want something to do with them, but they're selling their better stocks that it may be long-term portfolio, an Exxon or an Apple, whatever it may be, for this trash, right? I mean, give me strength. So, and they're all the reasons we kind of did this whole podcast thingy. And we're kind of sick of seeing innocence or ignorance because being told things that just aren't accurate, you know.
And people have different philosophies. She has a philosophy about innovation and a lot of stuff that really makes sense, but sometimes the market doesn't care about your opinion.
Yeah. Market's always right. Always remember that.
Yeah, she dumped Palantir and she bought Kratos, and Kratos... They've yet to really rise as a stock, but they're a pretty awesome company. They do a ton of drone stuff that I believe our future of military is going to have a ton of that. Autonomous,
I know two leaders that might want to buy that. One goes by the name of Putin. One goes by the name of Zelensky.
Yeah.
But all jokes aside,
I don't know why she bought. I don't know why she stuck in so long with Robinhood. I don't think Robinhood had a good. Today was probably their worst day. I think they're down to $5 now.
Robinhood.
Yeah, Hood.
No, we looked at selling that at 11 or 12 today.
$11 right now.
Yeah. We didn't
that's fake news.
11.
Fake news.
No, 11. No, I saw it go at $10.
Wait, how much did you eat the worm?
It's $10.77.
I think you ate the worm.
You must have been in Cancun when you saw that.
Yeah.
They were doing it in pesos or something.
He was at the metaverse. But
Johnny sitting in
well, I think
in the metaverse, it's making all that money.
Well, I think the problem with Kathy Wood was that, she got a little bit of perhaps she got a bit of the dribbler rubbed up on her when so it became self-fulfilling, right? It's an ETF. So if people bought, she had to buy the stock. And of course, it goes the other way, coming down. And I think it took her a long way to realize it. Secondly, they glorified her on the way up, right? And on the way down, all she did was defend. And Madame made a very good point. When she admitted she's wrong, it obviously took a while. That's a big thing, Because But when she started losing, she started a more sensible thing. Like, didn't she take profit on a lot of Tesla, for example?
Yeah, she did, and then she bought back.
It went over 10% or something.
She buys on the dip.
And don't, buying on the dip. Hopefully she stopped doing that. But dude, I looked at some of these stocks today, and we did. To be honest, Madav and I did give a lot of these names a bit of a nudge today when they came across. But that's our job, we're traders. I was shocked at how low they are, and these were a lot of stocks that got. This is really. It's important to recognize the different components of a financial market: the investor, the trader, the punter, and the dribbler. What their objectives are, how relevant they are, what they actually know. It's all right to go on verbatim with the same dribble all the time, but that's all it is. Buy a bloody magazine for that, right? Don't make decisions on it. And that's what captures a lot of people. Because when it comes to greed and fear, if you're holding a bag, and there's a lot of bag holders out there, you just want to hear someone tell you, hey, that's all right. Yeah, I'm going to buy more. Half the time they're not even buying, but they just want to say that. It's like when you're out with your mates and you got a girlfriend or a boyfriend that no one likes, but they're your friend, so they don't want to upset you. Oh, she's gorgeous, mate. Oh, he's a great guy. Same sort of thing, right? So you got to be unemotional, unattached. Use your different things, you know.
Yeah, I'll take some.
Yeah, there's some surprisingly
and listen,
skills to be at 250.
Right? People are giving her money, and she can't invest all in Tesla. So she had to go
on Kathy, yeah. You can't knock Kathy,
I mean, so she went in these high risk things because that's what her clients wanted. Her clients didn't want them to go give her money to go buy Apple.
Yeah, 100%. That's the other thing, right? With her, yeah. I was talking more specific about others, but yeah, 100%. And she was always available. She would say she says what she does every day, right? She's on TV. I mean,
she posts too. She posts every day what she does. If not every day, but yeah, she whenever she does a buy, like there's right now I'm looking. She bought just the other day. QSI, Quantum Sci. It's a genomics company.
I mean, that's
I've actually. But it's just like she'll post it. You know, she's not hiding stuff. She talks about it. She'll do.
And she's actually doing the trade. She's not just saying she's doing it.
She posts right away. She tells people she did it, or when she's done, she's putting that thing online. You go see it.
Yeah, I mean it's right there, out in the open. But at the same time,
hedge funds that will do that, and I can't even name another one that does that.
No, there's not many, and that's why I said beware the dribblers that are on FibTwit and some of these trading rooms and stuff. They're not doing what they say they're doing, and they don't know what they're doing. You know, half of them is just they're hobbyists. Sorry to interrupt, but we are getting drilled. We're at 42.13 on the SPOOs right now. Where did we close at?
I just gotta wait for his eBay to come. I got a little bit more work to do on that one.
So position wise, we're still short.
Yeah, a few things.
Bit of SPOOs, bit of that. So what? Sorry, go ahead.
Let me tell you what the difference is with me being short this particular stock. If we were in a bull market, coming out with earnings, right, and I'll be like getting out.
Which one are you talking about, eBay?
I know tomorrow it's going to be a bigger ass whooping for me.
Well, so that's another. So as bearish as I am, I had a lot of short dated puts in specifically in the Spider and Apple, but I took profit on them, didn't I, Madawi, at the end of the day, even though we were selling off because they were short dated, right? Meaning 3 to 4 days to expire. Or, let me think, what's today, 23rd? So 5 days was the close ones I had, I think, 28. The danger is if we're here tomorrow, I'm losing on vol, and then I can redo it. And remember, you're already short futures. So these have been selling off since the close. So 42.15 right now on the S&P cash. Nasdaq 13,470. and oil is just under 93 again, 92.87. Natty's 40.60. So these are all live prices. And you can see the VolX. I'm not sure if that's live there. Does that still update? So the other thing I like to mention, as you know, we use Sierra charts because we can use what we look at, right? Ichi, Murray, all that, and we can program them ourselves, and it is incredible good value. I can't believe how cheap they are for what they have. Unbelievable. And they're a good bunch of guys too. They'll talk to you if you got questions, if you need to do your own indicators and stuff. So I highly recommended them. And no, we don't get paid or anything like that. We don't get, or we get paid. Do we get paid for anything? We don't, do we?
I think we got discount. we got a $2 coupon.
Yeah, we got the coupon for trading for dummies. So anyway, that's live right now. Let's have a look where that is. Look at this, people.
Hey, Johnny, Chemo's here, by the way.
Welcome, Chemo. So we look at crypto real quick. Good question. Someone just pushed that up. So Bitcoin is actually doing better than the SPOOs as far as where we are in the scheme of things, right? Obviously, this went lower that time, but we're not matching this panic. And as you know, I don't trade it. I just watch it because it gives me an indication of where the people are, because this is the highest risk. These are weeklies I'm showing you right now on Ethereum. Still within it. If we look at it hourly, you can see it isn't. So the SPOOs are down here somewhere, right? So it's not good. You know my view on it, so let's not bore everyone with that. So that's what you have on that. Let's have a quick look at gold, because gold is at its highest, I think, since January last year.
Yeah, that's because Putin's buying them up so the U.S. can't sanction them.
No, he's already bought it up. He's actually selling it. He's selling it.
He's going to avoid sanctions that way.
Yeah, no, he's already bought it. He's going to use it as money.
Keep them going for a long while.
Well, I don't think it's so much Putin. It's more people buying it as a safe haven, right?
And here's the dangerous thing about these sanctions, right? People are sick of them, and they're going to quit. The dollar of being a world currency, that's coming to an end. And they had the biggest piggy bank in the world, and they're destroying it by weaponizing it. And if I had that, you would never see me do anything to weaponize that. I'll be like, man, this is a gravy train. I would never do anything that would cause me to one day lose that instrument.
Well, yeah, we'll see how all that plays out. But look, so gold, the reason we brought this up, remember we put this trade on, well, Madavi's put it on down here somewhere. He's been in it since Adam was a boy.
Yeah.
He's been buying here. But anyway.
This comes in like a truck. This comes in.
So,
the paper monopoly money goes out.
So what I like, remember we told all the punters, actually everyone, punters, traders, dribblers probably laughed at us. But we watched this pennant for months, and we had this on our weekly thing. Once it broke it, remember it formed that wave count. We got the count pretty right. It was in it, squeeze. And then it got power here. So remember, spit of a spit. So it broke, came back and retested it. This was your gift from God right here. It came down and tested the Tenkan and then exploded. And so that's a good $120 move right there on gold, right? So that's a good example of technical, fundamental, reading the room.
Hey,
how would you overlap that with Bitcoin?
Hey, in 1 week, I got more interest than any guy put all his money in the bank. That's it. They go, you don't get any interest for that. I go, neither do you.
But look what Uncle Andrew does. Uncle Andrew waits till here and buys it. Uncle Madavi buys
Hey, I just buy it every day because it's either that or hold on to Monopoly money, and I don't like Monopoly money.
Oh, mate. Anyway, to Bitcoin, I just showed you Bitcoin. Bitcoin's falling while this gold's going up. Right? Don't tell the dribblers that, though. They'll get all mad at you because they think...
So, no, but based on the market, what the market's doing and what Bitcoin and gold are doing, they're all kind of hedging where people's money are
Bitcoin's
going,
not
because
hedging
people-
anything except take money out of your pocket, mate. It's going down. What are you talking about?
Oh well, Bitcoin has gone down, but the people that hold it. It's the people that get in and out
Well,
of it. just like the market.
that's the propaganda of it. Yeah, they say that about all those dribbler stocks too. All those dribbler stocks we just went through, same bullshit, right, Madavi? Oh yeah. So what's the old joke? When a trade goes bad, what do they call it?
Johnny.
An investment, right? Oh yeah,
that's right. But see,
Traders,
all these bitcoins and stuff, there's like a small percentage of people who control most of the coin, and they decide where that market.
The whales, yeah.
The whales. So they're the ones who are running the stock up and down. You know, they could increase the float so they could turn on the spigot, and then it goes down, and then when they can tighten it up.
Well, the difference between gold and Bitcoin is if I chew a gold bar, it's real, it's there. I can't chew a Bitcoin bar. What am I going to do? Chew, mate? That's what my dog did to the damn laptop. Remember Madavi on the weekend? Same thing, really, right? All jokes aside, it is an alternative investment, but it is not a safe haven. And that is the myth of the whole thing. It's very different.
Hey, in 10,000 years, if Bitcoin's still there and it's still functioning, then we could put it on par.
Well, is it going to be in the metaverse? It will be, though.
I don't know. Johnny. Yeah. Well, yeah, in 10,000 years, we're all going to be in a metaverse, so we should be around for it.
So,
if you don't have a currency that everybody wants to use, I don't know.
Anyway, well, let's get back in the real world. So, what's safe haven right now is gold, oil, treasuries, right? That's what people are buying, and with that oil, obviously, oil stocks, commodities. Probably, they're more a factor of people having to hedge them for food. But here's gold has been just a wonderful trade for us, and hope everyone got on it. So now we're in this big pennant, and I was talking to our buddy Chad today. So the issue is, which way does it go? So we are topping here. Is this a pennant or a rolling top? Right. So keep an eye on that. This is a daily chart. So you're right in here. This is what I'm watching really closely. It's spinning around the tank. And remember, when it comes to oil, there's different qualities of oil. So there's the WTI, which is this here. So you got your Brent. You got your Urals out of Russia. They're all different, right? So there's not one fix all if there's not oil coming from one place or another place. I mean...
I think why I interjected what I did is because I think a lot of people that are listening they're asking themselves, well, with what's going on geopolitically and all these different things in the market right now, and trying to read that gold is going up and Bitcoin is going down. What about commodities? What about some of these other things that maybe you could bring to their attention?
Well, here's the difference, I guess. So most people are from the world I reside in, commodities and oil, we tend to we have no interest in, and I know everyone thinks mocks us for it. We don't do Bitcoin. We watch it, right? And a lot of certain stocks we don't trade either. So to answer that question correctly, we've been buying oil and natural gas and the stocks with it for a year and a half, at least, right? So now people asking that question, it's like, dude, we've come from 0 to 100, right? All the stuff you're talking about, the media's talking about, and that's why this whole wag the dog theory holds well with the whole Ukraine, the US that we've been talking about, is that we're at $100. If you're a speculator, I've said 100 times, I'll say it again, do not touch natural gas or oil unless you're from that world. You will get blown up. You'll get destroyed.
Unless you're
they are fast and dangerous.
Unless you're me, a Hall of Fame trader, or on gas, you know.
Yeah, but you know what's interesting is a lot of people that we know.
I give you the tip. Nancy Pelosi isn't trading natural gas futures, my friend, or oil futures. I'll be shocked.
Her husband is. But anyways,
he's trading oil and gas futures. That's a fact.
Yeah,
he is.
He's made millions of dollars.
I
just
would
doing
like
that.
to see that.
Well, anyways, there's conversations going on, and people don't expose themselves to the stock market because they are adverse to it. They're all thinking the same. This talk is going around about all these things.
Well, that's why I mentioned it. Yeah, they talk about it at the top or bottom. Unfortunately, like everything, right?
About the money, about the politics, about this, that, the other, and what's going to happen tomorrow. These are all important things that are tied together.
Right. And that's what we talk about, and that's why we spend a lot of time at the front talking about Ukraine. It's not a new thing, but it's being put into this world. It's almost like they're throwing gas. In fact, they're throwing gasoline on a fire to get reaction, and now we've got this situation, and it's volatile. And at the end of the day, it sounds terrible, but if it all goes to a war there, that's all you're going to think about. You've forgotten everything else. You've forgotten all the malfeasance, etc., from the government, the bad policies and all that, right? It's a total misdirection from that point of view.
Yeah.
I can't see it any other way. I hate to say that.
No. I agree, but it just when you got these bad politicians, that's why they all become wartime presidents, right? You got a bunch of bad politicians.
But we see it time and time. It's like everything. This just happens to be something we're familiar with. But
you gotta find something to cover up all their defaults, which there are tons of them.
Well, yeah, and specifically it's energy, which is also inflation and all that. I mean, Jay Powell's been very specific and very honest and upfront that, hey, this supply, we can't factor into that, right? So, and I can't say he'd be too happy. This is another thing that makes the job even more difficult for him, I would think, right?
It's just kind of funny, right? 10 months have been sitting there. They couldn't get a deal done, but sure, United States gets it done in a week now.
Oh, you're talking about the Iran deal, yeah. It's another matter as well.
There's clues everywhere. You just gotta look for them.
So
look at this. There's this Yahoo thing. Now you can explore where all the Russian troops are.
Well, I'll just say this. I don't think it's really a joking matter, the bullshit that's going on, personally. You've got Russia right now. I'll tell you something right now, live from Russia. Live from the Ukraine, sorry. They are expecting the Russians to attack at 4 a.m. local time. Russia's moved everything. Just let me talk. Russia's moved everything there. They're ready to do that. That's what's going on. So whether Putin sticks to that little area, they've intimated. Remember, he's been very vague. I mean, it's not going to be good if it goes down. There'll be a lot of people dead if that's what happens.
Where'd you get that information from? The meta world of...
It's from no meta world, my friend. It's something just texted me from someone in Kiev, so there's no bullshit. I don't talk bullshit. And I certainly don't live in the meta world. So that's the feeling there. People are very apprehensive. It's going on. So the problem is, here's what you got to ask yourself though. How has this been promoted? Is it being used for some other force? It kind of feels like that. And as Madabi said, it's for the whole war thing. But it's real. These are... I mean, I feel for people in that region because it's been you've got people who have got no effing idea about it in other parts of the world. Totally interfered in many ways and allowed it to happen, right? So if you think just of Ukraine and Biden, like I said, he was vice president there for a long time. There was that whole thing with the son making fun about the prosecutor. So it's not as if it's unknown. It just became useful in the very last month, right?
Well, here's the one thing is, right, where his son supposedly was an advisor on the oil and gas things, is one of those breakaway things.
Basuma. 100%.
That's where his project was when he was...
so there's natural gas reserves in one of those, in a dominant
I didn't know it was a natural transition from the pipe to oil man.
Yeah, so that's pretty good. I'll pay that one. So that's what's going on, and so that's the background and nerve. So when you're trading, so you got just because you got to be able to take your profit or know when to hold them, know when to fold them, cut your size down, as Ed Sekoda would say. I mean, as I said, I could have kept obviously those at this point. If the market was 24-hour, my puts would be worth more, right, Madao? But we have to make that decision. So that's also important when you buy puts and calls. Look at your expiration. Look at your. Remember, I forget all the charmer and all that, unless you actually. So that's not what we're doing. We want Theta, we want Delta, we want Vega. So that we don't want to fiddle with around because we got to be quick, far, and what really gives a value to the option is that we're not a vol fund. That's not what we do, right? So we're directional. So just keep that in mind. But anyway, I was sharing that. So, so as you know, I know people of Russian persuasion and Ukrainian persuasion in that country from both regions for the rugby league, right? So it's very unfortunate that those people on the land in that country are effectively being used by, I'm not going to mess around, by Putin and by Biden, right? So
well, it was the U.S. getting in there, sticking it in there to provoke the
you can say that, but Russia been involved in there since that whole Crimea thing. So they've been there, mate. It's not all U.S.
Well, I'm saying they've been there, but it's like the United States is not in Mexico. You go up there.
No, it's a little bit different, but
but you know what I'm saying. They're neighbors, man. Of course you're gonna be there. It's not like they're in Venezuela. That's something different.
Well, no, but Russia has troops there, and they've had them there for a long time. There's 14,000 people, is the estimate, that's been killed in those two regions.
I understand all that, but I'm just saying that's a conflict. They used to be part of one nation. They broke, like I explained it earlier, it's like the United States breaking off, and then, there's one part of it also wants to go with an outside force that's not too friendly with the main government there.
Well, there's a little bit more to it, as I said at the top of the hour, with the whole Russification thing. So, Putin's no champion of these people. Just understand.
No, these
right?
people are all bad. So, but you have to follow it because these are the events.
Yeah. But it's how the market reacts.
Count how many times you heard the COVID-19 today and how many times you counted Ukraine. That's going to be the new word for a while.
Well, what's interesting is that, and someone, and you start to, it all becomes a blur what's real and accurate and opinion. But we would hear non-stop about COVID for years. Then all of a sudden, COVID actually got worse, didn't it? More deaths. Yeah. More people caught it, and we heard nothing about it over the last 6 months. I'm talking about the US. I know in Australia and Russia, France, wherever you are, it's all different, right? We're just talking from an American point of view. And so now we hear about, there was something before. We heard about January 6th, then became after COVID, which was the insurrection deal with Trump. And then, so Trump non-stop too, about all his tax situation. You got to laugh, really. It can't be true, all this. And now, it's the Ukraine, right?
Hey, did you hear Nancy Pelosi was the best? Oh, they meddled in our election, so we got to get them.
She said that?
Yeah, she said that today.
Oh, you are kidding. So that gets disproven, and they still throw gasoline.
And I think that's got another factor. While all these Democrats are really gung, they still believe that the Russians came in and voted for Donnie.
Right. Well, so and we said this a couple of weeks ago, and it's all, unfortunately, it's come out as we thought it would. And still, I'm not convinced there's going to. I'm just telling you what someone in Kiev's telling me, who's on the ground and knows, and they're legitimate. They're just expecting it. Doesn't mean it's happened yet. So we're hoping that doesn't happen, by the way, everyone. We're not warmongers, far from it. But anyway, so if you just think you're Vladimir Putin, you've listened for 6 years how you rigged an election of someone who got impeached twice, so obviously a criminal, or made out to be a criminal. I'll rephrase that, sorry, Trumpsters. So you've told him you're a bad man, you've done all this stuff. So that's all. So you already put your position, and it's non-stop with the partisan followers. Then we have the oil prices go up, and we all know the history when Biden came in. Let's not go over it with the different anti-oil and gas stuff, and still going on, etc. So instead of saying drill more in Texas or in wherever, California or whatever. Cap in hand to Saudi Arabia, who, correct me if I'm wrong, Madavi, but I'm pretty sure Biden said he wouldn't deal with MBS because of the head chopping incident.
Yeah, well,
then it goes to him cap in hand, right?
Yeah, he deals with the dad, supposedly. He talks to the dad.
And then a dad talks to the kid. That sounds familiar. That's kind of how that Iran thing, don't they talk in separate rooms? It's like, are we stupid?
Across the street, and one guy's got to run over.
So that happens, right? So OPEC and OPEC Plus says, yeah, whatever, dude. So they've done that. Then they go. Then the whole Nord Stream 2 plays out. We've all seen that. Meanwhile, I'm pretty sure he was convinced by selling SPR, which they said they're going to do again today. They're going to get oil down. It got down to $62. Exxon, etc. bought it. It's now 90. I just looked at it. What did I say? 93 bucks. So that didn't work. Shit. Okay. I mean, isn't this all too obvious? Am I just going nuts in my old age? Then we do the whole Ukraine thing, right? Meanwhile, inflation's through the roof because of oil and gas. We saw France have to bail out EDF last week. People are freezing, dying, etc., is probably on the cards. But so it's just like, that's why people are very, very angry in Europe, right? Very, very angry.
And one thing I didn't look at is I didn't understand that the Democrats still had this vision that the Russians got Trump in after Nancy said that. So that could be a part of that too. They could be a little payback to Putin.
Well, I don't know if it's a payback to him, but I think
just stick it to him.
I think yeah. Well, don't forget, it's very partisan. So they got to make Putin a bad guy. I'm not saying he's a good guy, but it goes with the narrative, which I think what you're saying. Yeah.
And the last president to this president, totally different outlook. Trump saying, yeah, he did the right thing. And this guy's saying, oh, it's the end of the world.
So let's look at the spoos. So we just saw the rumors. So I'm not the only one with good intel over there. So there are rumors around now, more mainstream, about what's going on in the Ukraine, right? So look what we attacked early. So when we looked at this an hour ago, we hadn't quite got to that level. That's where we are. So if we want to look at some levels, and I'll give you some we know where they are, right? So 4,200. Why? Because it's a big OI or gamma level. Underneath that, you got all this area, 41.75. If you go over here, 41.75, 41.50. But we get under that. I mean, look at that. It's just massive, right? On the top, so I guess if this attack doesn't happen, then you got resistance, I guess. Let's go to a 240. So we want to be aware. Obvious one is this previous low, which is what's that exact? 42.27, I believe. So this low here. So that's your resistance, your tank, and if you use market profile, I'll give you those levels. It's 4227, 32, 41, 52, and 74. So that's the deal. But isn't it crazy how these charts work, Madavi? So they pushed it right here, supports here. They buy them, selling them, buying them, selling them. That's all that's going on. So don't be buying puts here and buying calls here. That's your expensive thing. That's why we say have a strategy. So we looked at gold. We looked at all the stocks. We didn't look at Natty. We looked at oil. Sorry, mate?
All the stocks were traded after hours.
Oh, yeah, shit, yeah. Oh, we started to, excuse the French there, people. I got to work on my French. Just a quick look at Natty. That's the weekly. Still the same count. You can see it's working around the tank. And if we go to the daily, look at that, held all that. So it's pretty clear what's going on. Okay, our charts, we had them on the other one, yeah? Where did I put them, Bus? So we did skills. We talked about Fubu. We talked about the Palantir and Etsy. So we want to look at what did we trade at eBay, right?
Yeah, eBay. That's what I'm still in.
So I just did a scalp on this one too.
Well, I did it too. I got greedy and I went back in.
So refresh me on this. They lowered guidance, right?
Yeah, it's the lower guidance, and so that's a big killer, right? And at their numbers, all the numbers beat, because they can fluff the numbers the way they want them. But
are you saying that a tech company lies about its P&L?
Well, let me tell you how everything is. No company ever wants to come out there and give out great forecasts anyways, because then what's going to happen? The analysts are going to boost it way up too. There's that game too. But so a lot of people downplay it, but eBay doesn't have a history of doing that because the stock ain't exactly outperform the markets.
No.
The one that does that a lot is Apple. Apple always plays down their next quarter.
Yeah, they always dumb it down. Yeah.
So the analysts give them a lower mark to make, so they always make some big tragedy about something. They always come out beat it. So that's the way you do earnings if you're a good CEO, right? You downplay the next one. But for a company, it's in eBay's position, really not being one of the stocks that got a bump through that whole pandemic and just basically has been sitting around the same place. It's not good for you.
So, I will go through our trades real quick. I was a bit late to this. I think you got short up here. I didn't get short. I kind of was in the middle of futures, I think. But yeah, I got short just over 50. Let me look. 50.36. And then I missed this fall, remember? I was trading skills or trying to. I didn't get on it. But I couldn't bring myself to short more down there.
I'll tell you what I did and stuff. And
I covered in here because I missed that.
Yeah. These stocks always get it. Once a stock comes down a lot, usually there's a back up move. But this stock was kind of weird because it started selling off and it never got the bounce back move that you normally get in these stocks. Usually there's a head fake, right? And then the next move is the one you want to catch, But I think at the beginning of it, there was one little tiny one, but it was not what you would normally expect. You know what I'm talking about, mate. Never go on the first move, is always a head fake.
Yeah.
That's why I hesitated from shortening it a little bit. I go, is this the head fake? Is the earnings out? I was asking you.
Yeah. And I got onto it late because I read it. You reacted to it, yeah.
Yeah, so thinking that, I actually went long first. So I went long it. Then you go, oh no, it's a miss, on the thing. So then I had to reverse out and get short, and I made some money on there. And I was like, man, I don't think this thing's gonna bounce a lot. So I went in there and kept on selling it because I didn't see that big bounce up. And all of a sudden, before you know it, poof, I got nice and deeply short. Well, what's my cost average now? It is at. It's not a good one, but it's.
So you went back in after I got out, basically, is what you're saying.
So I could have gotten out for a flat, but I go, man, I thought this thing would flush down because once they start selling these things, they usually sell them nice now,
Right.
And the selling doesn't stop, So. And it got a little bounce up. I was like, I'll give it when I'm going to be down a little bit because I made some money I lost some money on the first move. So, and because when I went long, then I flipped it and went short. I made some good money there. Then I got out around, what's that, 40? I'll tell you right now where I got out. Let me look at my trades.
So what I really like about Madavi's trading, he's very clinical and cuts very quickly when he's wrong. You know, there's the odd one where you might build a position, but generally, and she can go long or short. So that's an important thing as a trader. And as an investor, you're not going to do that, right? So, I mean, you can, but
first time
you're going to get
around.
whipped.
Okay. Actually, I bought this at 50.75 to start with. I could have got short at 51, actually, you know. And then when we said, oh man, this is a miss, I sold it at 49.83. Then I got short at 49.90, all the way down to 49, right?
Yeah,
Then I ended up covering it at 48.46. Okay, so I was short. Then I bought it back. Okay, I bought it back.
You sound like one of those guys on the front line.
I bought it back at 49.21 is where I bought it back at. All right, so then I was like, man, this thing's looking good still. So I started shorting at 49 again, and I bought this one back at 48.46. Then I was like, hey, I still thinking, man, this thing's could move down. Then I started shorting it at 48.24, 48.86, 48.70, 49.54, 50.36, and 50.42. And that's so that's where I'm at now.
Yeah. So I just did the one trade on that. I shorted it. I missed this whole 40.
I missed it. You know, I was getting
I
in
just
and out.
covered here rather than.
I was expecting to move up like we ended up getting, but it was just so much selling and everything, and it was a little bit delayed, and the markets are selling off.
Yeah, look at that volume.
This is going to be one of, if you remember about 3 quarters past on eBay, that thing did the same thing, and it dropped like 10 points afterwards. So I thought it was one of them, you know. A shed, which still could be. I mean, tomorrow we could come in, and this thing could be down another 5 or 6 points.
Well, I think a lot of tomorrow is going to be what happens with the geopolitical situation.
Here's the big difference why I'm still in this trade, all right, compared to when the bull market's pandemic was there. Because in the pandemic, after every earnings was good, bad, it didn't matter. They just drove up the stock, right? So you would not have a chance for the stock usually come back.
Right. 100%.
So if the markets are weak and this thing's guidance is weak, there's good probability chance that we'll see this thing at even 45 tomorrow, 46, 45.
Yeah, so, I mean, it could really be anywhere with if that happens in Ukraine or whatever. Yeah, I
don't see this thing on the upside pathways. So let's say on the upside of it, I don't see this thing past 52. All right, and so I could hold through that. That's not I'll do some options against it, and I'll just start getting paid until next week until it sells off. Because I know there's another big sell-off is in the works somewhere. You just might have to wait for it. So I'll use the options tomorrow, and I can hang in there. But the reason
we're a very unsettled market for sure.
It's coming back my way, but the market's coming my direction. So in the past, you remember all the guys who a trade would turn into a position. It's kind of
the investment.
Well, the bull market, so they always came back. So in the bear market, you can kind of do reverse things, but be selective, and you know it doesn't work all the time. You're at risk. That's why you maybe use some options to protect your downside, and maybe make some money doing it too while you wait. You know. So that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, so in a high vol time, you can really take advantage of selling vol, but you got to know what you're doing. Remember, when you're selling vol, you're taking on risk. So understand I've seen too many people get destroyed on puts and calls by not knowing what they're selling.
So usually when you have the stock and stuff, you could we use it to minimize their losses, right? If it got past a certain level, you just go, okay, I'll let the stock go. But if it didn't, you at least got some couple of points to give you extra holding time to let the trade work out.
Right.
And that's what I'm looking for. I want to try to look for a buck or two to give me that more leeway, not to lose, that money. and then it'll give me a couple more days of holding time when I have to like sweat it out.
Yeah. Thanks for that. It's a good explanation, mate. So before we finish, we didn't mention bonds. So bonds are very important to watch in this sort of situation. Multiple reasons, really. One is to get the mood of the market. We looked at gold. So you want to look at safe haven, we look at gold. The alternative, Johnny's not totally wrong with a Bitcoin, by the way. There is, for some people, that definitely is a safe haven, but I'm just talking about the general kind of us old school kind of idiots. We don't see it too safe haven, do we, Madal? So, as far as bonds go today, it's obviously two things happened today. Obviously, the geopolitical aspect, the stock market weakness, the relevance too is all the data, the inflation. That's not going away anytime soon, particularly when you look at oil and natural gas. So today, as a result of that, we had the auction, which was another pretty strong auction. It was a 53 billion 5-year. We gave it an A. I think it's on the website. Meaning there's demand, right, for it, basically because of safe haven. So think of that. As far as yields go, they're well underneath what they were a week ago, right? Remember the 2-year, as far as the curve goes, but the 10 still just around 2%, it's like 198. But what you're seeing is the bond market doesn't believe the 7% inflation. In other words, inflation out the curve. So like 30 years, 2.28%, right? 10 years, 1.98%. So take that into account and then look at how the market reacts and how everything reacts together. That's the important thing. So just remember, the big markets, Forex, bonds, trade, dictate everything else, right? Pretty much. So that's where the massive money flows are. We had the API number out earlier. There's some good guys to follow in oil and gas, and we've spoken. But our friend Robert Gibbons is great. He's a journalist, actually been around forever. Knows his stuff. Cool guy, if you're into music especially, but worked for the big agencies and does a really good job covering what matters on oil and gas. So I find it interesting, Madavi, when these people say all of a sudden experts at everything that don't trade oil and gas, particularly gas. But anyway, he always does a really good summary of the API number, which comes out the night before EIA number, right? So we had a very big build in crude of 5.9 million barrels. Gasoline's, remember this could change with EIA tomorrow. Gasoline 427, small distillates 985. But Cushing, which is relevant, because WTI, because that's the hub, that is was a draw of 2 million. So the Cushing inventory is down in the low 20s. So that's the thing. If we're getting rid of our SPR, where's it coming? So Robert makes a good point. So you've got what's going on in the Ukraine, right? So now you've got this build. Is that a reflection of keeping oil out of here? And that should take, versus just for control if you're an oil company. But also I want to watch how much of the war premium comes out with that. And there's other questions like jet fuel, diesel. Does military start eating into that? So they're all the things you want to question yourself. So that's on that around the barrel that comes out in Trades Community. It's got all those analysts taking part in it. Anything else we need? I think we covered pretty well everything, right? So war is the big thing, unfortunately. Tomorrow you get the Q4 GDP out of the US, new home sales. And as I said, because we had a holiday on Monday, you've got EIA for both natural gas and oil tomorrow. And we have another auction, 50 bill, I think, for a 7-year. So, anything else, mate?
No. I mean, finally, what we talked about, it finally came, into fruition, because I was like, man, I'm gonna sound like a broken clock,
Yeah, I was starting to bring up your time in the cage. We started to get worried.
Yeah. So the main aspect is, everybody, you got to get your risk tolerance and your pain levels, and to believe in what you're doing to be a success into your trading. So
you got to have a strategy and a plan, so it doesn't surprise you.
So you got to understand where the market situations are, and if this is the place you want to make your last stand, So, basically is, you want, when you want to do stuff like that, you want the odds on your side. So
right. So trading's a probability game. You're not going to be right all the time. You're not going to be wrong. Well, you shouldn't be wrong all the time. So you want to, your risk, control your risk, and sometimes just don't trade if you don't feel it, right?
Oh, well, what I'm saying is, no matter what, throughout your trading, you're going to get in a situation that's not always what exactly you plan. Now you got to decide what you're going to do with it, and what risk are you going to take, and do you understand your risk?
Yeah, it's very important. You got to understand your risk, and know what you can tolerate, really, right? And I like to say, expect the unexpected.
Yeah. Most people are usually oversized for their accounts. So if, put it this way, if it's going to affect it where you can't pay your mortgage next month, you probably,
you're probably not trading.
Probably oversized.
So, I'm looking at tomorrow's big earnings. There's a couple of dribblers in there too, but there's a couple of good names. Autodesk, I saw that go by as a 52-week low, actually. But a lot of people hold that one. Axon. Well, let me pull them across so you can see them.
And if you got babies at home, the mom could feed them. That's a good part. So you can take a little bit.
Dang, you can't say that anymore. So there's a couple of dribblers here. So Autodesk is out tomorrow. And this is all on our weekly. Axon, SQ, Kavana, that's definitely a dribbler. Dell. See
that? Selling it, mate.
Which one? eBay?
Maybe the SPOOs and the NQs.
Oh, yeah. So they just come back on hand.
They just started selling hard now. Something just came out.
Yeah, something just came out.
Something came out.
Well, it's probably the war stuff.
I'm short. NQs, a bunch of it.
Well, I've still got the same on. Let me look.
Well, there's some kind of news it feels like came out, because this one's a little bit different. This one's a little bit special.
Yeah, it's back at that level, see? Look at that.
Yeah. So it looks like the troops are marching in or something. Who knows? They got it on CNBC, some military cars. I don't know what's it about.
Well, the Russians are moving ever so close, but maybe they're showing that again. I'd imagine that's it.
We know the true story and what's really on there, but they're dramatic in it over here. Something just came out there beating the drums.
Well, as I said, what they're expecting over there, and they're actually over there. So,
because you filled their head. People get scared if you start telling us. They might start believing it, right?
They're right there. They see it with their own eyes. It's not a made-up thing.
I understand, but they didn't notice it 2 days ago. That's my only thing.
They did in the Ukraine. They might have in the US, because they're. But here's the other thing. This gives you an idea how disconnected, and this is a bull versus bear market and traders versus investors. So it's so disconnected, like people don't think, it's almost like the Ukrainians or Russians aren't people to many people who trade the market. Same thing in the Middle East when the war was going on, remember? You think how many people died in Iraq, right? They're disconnected. So that's the obscene bit with money. So they're just worried about their own thing, and they're oblivious to it, and that's why we kind of harp on a little bit more about what's going on in Ukraine. So, like you said this morning, they come in and they bought it. Oh, it's all fixed or not, because they're oblivious, and that's where the macro, and I mean real macro, not just using the word, how it all interplays and everything, and how that affects things.
Well, I mean, this is my thing. If I ever make money off someone's misery, I usually send a little donation back their way.
Well, yeah, it's bad karma, right? Blood money.
Yeah, I believe in hey, man, because I've been there. I've been around wars, and I had when I was a kid. I know how to get bombs dropped on you.
Yeah, 100%. Sorry to interrupt, but so the only latest thing is there is a emergency session being held by the UN Security Council over Ukraine. But
that's it.
I heard of that a while ago, so maybe they just redid it.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe it's a new news thing. But nothing new other than what I said earlier, to my knowledge. And I'm sure I would have got a text, so... But yeah, not good. But know your levels, everyone. Don't get caught up in the semantics of it.
I just need eBay to go down. That's the only thing I need.
Yeah. Well, where is our eBay chart? Where did I put that?
It's at 540.
I had it a second ago. Where did I put it? I was checking. Here we go. 40, 50, 42. There you go.
Yeah.
So anyway, we did waffle on a bit. It's been a busy day. We had a lot of energy to get along. We missed you all. And thank you for all those messages. We do appreciate those on Twitter or that. We try to give a view. And, you know, if people aren't legitimate and they get upset what we're saying, that's kind of a good thing, right? So, you know, am I wrong? It means we're doing something right. We just want to steer through. And as I said at the top of the hour, shout out to some good stuff out there from CLF Trader, Wi-Fi Alpha, Commodity Vol. Does some really good stuff. And if you follow what we do on the different stuff on Traders Community and oil and gas, all those guys in there, do yourself a favor, because Volatility Radar has his own Twitter now, and he's actually come up with this very impressive model using his Excel of all different VIX, and it's very helpful out the curve. If you trade options or futures, I highly recommend it. And this stuff's all blokes doing it for free to help other guys out. And check out Sierra charts if you want to follow us. So that's it.
Money.
If you can't be cool, be messy, all right? Something like that. Anyway, see you in the roundabout, and we will see you later, and we'll have all this stuff.
Remember to subscribe, like, and write me a letter. How's he getting? How you getting stuff, man? I ain't got nothing.
Well, because I'm nice. I'm very nice. So, yeah, subscribe, share, all that. If you like what we're doing, send us any thoughts and ideas. We are very sensitive, so only kind things.
Yeah.
And good to see Johnny back. Mean things, Madabi. Okay, see you guys.
See ya.
Yeah.